Well, welcome to the channel, viewers. Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Here's a photo of 3 of the kids taken with one of my pipeline surfboards. I used to ride at Banzai, Foresters Beach, Australia. Big wave board. The kids had a pretty healthy lifestyle. She was a little one there. On the left, she became a police officer and was a champion athlete. The kid in the middle, young Geordie, well, he did what he could with what he had. And the older one, as I speak, is in Rome. Sent photos of the Colosseum and everything today. She's a bit of a traveller and a professional florist. And a handicapped person helper. There's 2 other kids, but they're not in this photo. When you look back at the fun that was brought to these kids, I'd really tried to make it fun for these guys, and they ended up in a really unfortunate situation with their mother, who made some terrible decisions. But somehow or other, the legacy of sport and fun and skill stayed with these kids, and they've fallen back on that in their later lives. They're all grown up now and moving on with life, and they've learned a lot from the decisions of their mother. They saw a lot. I think that's why the little one on the ground there, Joanna, I think that's why she became a policewoman. She saw too much. When you look back over the decisions that people make and what life does to them and the reasons why they make these decisions, it can be quite devastating when you think that what was the way in which life worked out for everyone. It wasn't one or the other. There's different pressures that come with the way marriages can go. We actually had a pretty good life. We had a 2-story house at this point with the in-ground pool and the new kitchen. There was really no reason for things to go the way they did, except for the fact that there was too many interferences and too many people involved in the situation with that marriage. Again, this is why I'm very sensitive to interferences in marriages, because I've seen what happens and how subtle it is, and how destructive it is. The mother ended up just did not go right for her at all. Very sad when you think about it. We all still talk. The mother comes and cleans this house every now and then. I don't encourage it too much. But when people are short, you try and help them out, and everybody gets along. Actually, with this sickness, the mother brought particular vitamins that were key in the recovery here. She's a very caring woman in her own way, but again, got caught up in the victim martyr mentality, which led her down a very dark path, which was of no benefit to anybody. And it's a very complex psychology and how all that come about and how all that got wrecked. But I dealt with things pretty fiercely. I had to save the inheritances of the children. They would have got wasted if they ended up in the mother's hands, which I did. and have amassed that into what should set them up to be able to buy each of them a house if I cark it. Considering I couldn't read or write, I've done all right for these kids. The key to it was to stay sober, to not have any alcohol or drugs or anything like that. Stay close to the Lord. Be aware of the wiles of the enemy who is going to go for the family unit. It's quite a complicated story. They tried to put me in a mental home at this point, and I was fully conscious of what they were doing, and I just went along with it. The interesting part about it was I was a hospital chaplain at the time, and was very close to the chaplain of the hospital, because we would just go in on a casual basis, whereas he was the full-time intern chaplain, Reverend Ken Shakespeare. And I did grow close to him. I'm not sure why. But anyway, when I went along just to see how far these people would go in their religious narcissism, which is probably, to me, the worst form of narcissism because it's so well disguised. I remember sitting with Reverend out in a place called Mandala, and just what we saw and what we learned from that together, it was profound, what people can do. And it's very sad what they can do in destroying people's lives. Religious narcissism is one of the fiercest, most cunning and evil forms. If you look at the Pharisees and how they got Christ to the cross, although it was part of God's big plan, just the evil and the determination to make that happen was mind-boggling. And when you're on the end of this kind of determination in modern day, and these people think it's right for you to go to a mental home. One of the reasons for this was I was a swimmer, so I was always at the pool at 5 o'clock in the morning, training. Then I'd lay bricks all day. I was building a church at the time and a house. I mean, I had a lot going on, and these people couldn't comprehend where all the energy was coming from. And they were offended by this. I just don't think they understood the motivation, the deep level of motivation that I had, and how all that worked. Although I do know that we had a lot of pressure from the young little kids, and she was a good mother, really. I could not say a bad word about her. It was just sad how the breakdown happened, and our family come under such great attack. There is a price to be paid when you're a minister. It does get very dark. And if you haven't got the right setup in your family, you will be. I watched the powers of darkness micro-incrementally pull that family apart, my family apart, so brilliantly. So brilliantly. It would put the fear of God in anybody not to be anything but as straight and as aware as you can be. Because the damage that I saw done is just, I cannot describe the reality of evil. Just incredible. To think that we can stand here today after 20, 25 years of, or maybe 20 years when all this happened back then, stand here today and all get along like nothing happened. You have no comprehension of what that means to the glory of God, to the forgiveness that comes as Christians, even in the face of the most hostile destruction that I've ever seen done to people that I've ever known. The powers of darkness are real, and they're just not to be trifled with. As we jump forward, and the lessons that you learn from these things and how determined darkness can be to try to destroy you. I can remember I used to pray. I prayed for years, please, Lord, take these demons away. They just hounded me. They hounded me for years and tormented me for years. And please do not underestimate the determination of the principalities and powers that will brilliantly and magnificently destroy everything you have around you if you think they're a joke. Just here in my last couple of relationships, I don't even think these people were aware of Satan. They just flowed on in their destruction like the devil didn't even exist, and I just watched him mastermindedly continue his little run to try and destroy me. The daughter of the woman I was married to went so far as to go ahead of herself as an evangelist, a satanic evangelist, and try and tell these people that I was some kind of bad person. I'm thinking to myself, you don't have to do that. The devil will do that without your help. And she made an idiot of herself and showed where they were really at. I've seen some tremendous, horrible ways in which evil pulls apart people. And anybody that thinks that you don't need to know Jesus has a screw loose. For mine, there's definitely something missing. And I say that humbly. I'd say that by experience. In my last relationship, the emotional incest that attacked me in that one was profound and very, very sad. Again, I very clearly watched how this one was going to play out. And I do have to say, this lady did have an element of awareness towards what was going on, but she had no power to stop the dark triad characteristics that had been formed in the golden child that she had. She knew I tried to get along with this kid, but she also knew there was no hope, no chance. The problem that she had was that she idolized this person, and when some of the realities were brought to the forefront, because I don't pull any punches, if you've got me in your life, we're going to get it to where we need to, or we're going to call things as they are. They just could not. They couldn't come out of it. And that's their choices. I mean, there was elements here where you were dealing with substances and other things that people are never going to heal from. They've given their lifetime to it. It's hard when you have lived a life without all that, and then you meet someone and you're watching what they've done for decades, and you see the physical destruction and mental destruction that's happened to them. And when you compare that to having a life around straight, healthy people, I have no sympathy for these ones. They made their choices, and you live and die by the sword. I'd say it was the shortest relationship I've ever had. And no, it wasn't I can't say it was all that good, to be honest. Everything was pulled apart pretty quick. The woman herself, she was limited to how she was going to commit herself. She was never really going to develop. I think it was she'd gone too long in life with the choices that she'd made, and I was aware of this, and I could see that the long-term damage that had been done was pretty sad. She had no boundaries with her adult sons. They interfered in everything. They, in a lot of ways, had taken the parent role off the mother, even though she was probably the main supplier in every aspect of the house. I was barred from the house. My presence was all too much for the golden child. He wasn't going to match it. He wasn't able to match it. He was had too many problems, and his grandiose mentality couldn't stand someone being around that actually functioned and had no dependency on anything or anyone. And also was a threat that their mum, if she really decided to, could disappear with. But I knew she wouldn't. They were all too dependent on each other. I never expected her to. All she had to do was bring a little bit of order, and things might have been different. But I just watched these people flail, and knew that I didn't really belong there. I opened my world up, and my children accepted this woman, but she was never going to make it. She didn't have the she just didn't have the finer qualities that were required to sustain a relationship at this level. And that might offend people, but I'm sorry, that's the truth. You can't live in darkness and in the shadows and think that you can stay in the light. It just doesn't work like that. And what they don't realize, this is what these people don't realize, for all their life experience, that you will reap what you sow. I mean, she's about to witness some horrible things to happen to that golden child for the karma and stuff that he did. I passed him a couple of weeks ago, and he just did not look well. He was your typical wrong choices, misled by the parent, no boundaries, no guidance, no respect for masculine mentoring or anything like that, and no respect for himself. And I got no respect for the person, that's for sure, for what I saw. Respect's earned, as I said, to the mother, and it's just not automatic. And they're trying to get my respect, and I'm thinking to myself, hang on a sec, I haven't got a problem with anyone. These are the people with the problem. She didn't like that, but there was nothing she could do about that either. She sort of more or less, when a ship's sinking, just sort of decided to probably go down with the ship. She'll find somebody probably like herself that'll make things worse for their lives, and the light will switch on and the shock will happen, and the lifestyle they chose will reveal its darkness. And I've got no sympathy whatsoever. Unfortunately, in this day and age, all the knowledge and all the science and all the records and data are there on what's good and what's bad. Excuses aren't good enough anymore. And, if you're brought into a situation where somebody has performed and, without too much effort, it's not all that hard when you're dealing with people that really just haven't learnt anything from life that's going to benefit them in the latter part of their life. You're sort of watching people that have allowed life to slip through their fingers. I know it sounds confronting, but it has. It's just completely slipped through their fingers. They're lost in an emotional, hyper-emotional sensitivity realm that's infantile and really doesn't mean or produce anything except to themselves. They just trip over themselves and gloat on themselves, and they just, that's if that's the way that they are, that's fine. I'm not making any offense to that, but from where I was standing, things just needed to be so different. There was just this. It was like a dog with a broken hind leg that hadn't been fixed. It's just dragging its leg. And there was no awareness of this. It was all sort of spiritualized into this sort of, oh, the flowers are, on the lawn, or there was just this fantasy, just a fantasy that kept them in the shadows and in the darkness. And I ran out of tolerance towards it in the end, and studied it a bit in the sense of there is such a thing, I can tell you for a fact, of narcissistic trauma. And the way of the narcissist, as the basic patterns of it described by Professor Sam Vaknin and these other people that are aware of narcissism, is real. You wouldn't pick this woman as being a sufferer of narcissism, but once you watch and listen to her story and the abuse that she went through with the alcoholic partner she surrendered to, which was part of her plan to be able to maintain her habits, which destroyed her life as well. You watch all these different things play out with people that you meet, and you've got to be aware that life takes no prisoners. You can't feel sorry for these people. You've got to navigate with all the wisdom you have, without mercy, your life alongside the lives of these people. And if they ain't going to make it, you've got to be brutal. I ended up having to, this lady tried to blame me for her son's dysfunction and infantile mentality, narcissistic mentality. And she was marched straight away. Just turned around and marched. See you later, go and get. And let them, be victims of their own demise, because that's what they are. People that are victims and martyrs will blame other people for where they end up, even if it's their own misleading upon themselves. Okay? And what these people don't realize, when somebody comes along that has dealt with people in prisons for decades and people on the streets, and have worked with the real unfortunates of life and the real clever cunning deviants of society in bike gangs and all this other stuff, and the surfing culture, they just underestimate how wise you are and how committed you are. We have security. We have security gates on our property. You don't come here. You don't get on my property without my authority. And, we opened our world up to, I take my women in high regard. And whilst her world was closed to me, because my presence was too much for her male sons, all she had to do, and this was where I was at, let's see if this woman can overcome her maternal limitedness towards dysfunction. And let's see if she can rise and put some boundaries up and have a relationship with a man and a children on a healthy, harmonious level. She couldn't do it. The malignant narcissism on the golden child was something that I think she was infatuated with. because it brought an element of toxicity and the grandiose style of that toxicity, which has a real inebriation to it, like a lustful inebriation, the deepest form of emotional incest that is very hard to find your way out of. And so she sold her soul to the way in which she was before I come along. And I just continued on with my athletic, self-determined lifestyle to stay a superpower. Being a superpower is simply to need nothing, to be loving and caring and provide masculinity, but to absolutely need nothing except God and Christ, food and air and exercise. If people come into your life and they're unable to present themselves in a way in which an adult should, so that they deserve your participation in their life and vice versa, people aren't able to do that after the love bombing stage. You've got to be well aware of it, and you've got to axe that person. Just axe them. Leg it. Send them back to where they belong. They are not going to be an asset to your life. They've made their choices. That's all there is to it. A lot of these people are just going with the flow now and trying to pick up what they can in the last part of their life. They're going to meet people that are absolutely going to destroy them. People that have had high quality people come into their life and haven't realized. They usually go back to the lower ends of what they're used to. And these people get robbed, they get raped, they get left for dead. And this brings all the more awareness to the adult sons that are supposed to be leading this person of the fact of how dysfunctional they really are. Some people never find that. Some people die before their time. Their choices are so bad. Their habits are so bad. You know, so I've walked alongside all different kinds of women. But I do have to say the ones that are addicts and that don't have sympathy for them. They made their choices. They wanted to sit with the drug. They can make all the excuses they want because they're determined to do it even after you're gone. And that's going to bring with it the darkness and the trauma that comes with it. And it's not your problem. You have to stay focused on the time that you have left in your life and be an example to your children. A lot of these drug people and alcohol people pass it on to their children. You know, and they think they're responsible. These people, they just don't have any self-awareness. They don't understand that people are watching how dysfunctional they are, how destructive they are, and how harmful and damaging they can be. It's quite alarming, people. You need to be aware and have no mercy. You need to make sure that the children that you bring into this world can look back with the same love and happiness that they have, like in this picture, and be grateful for the life they're given. And understand, you know, that there is a God, that he's real. There is a devil and he's real. And it's their responsibility, with the wisdom that they have in their minds and the example that you've set for them as a parent, to have a chance against the odds to to succeed in the life that they've been given. I led by example with sport. I still do to this day. I led them by example to be straight and peaceful and loving to the people that come into their lives, but to have no mercy. If people start to fail you and it's infantile or relative or subject to dysfunctions like drug habits and things like this, do remove yourself as quickly as possible and let these people suffer at the hands of the choices that they make. Don't let them take you with them. Let these people, if they choose to, be the victims of their own demise. The culture now of rescuing and enabling these sick individuals is a deception on those who buy into it. I don't buy into it. I've been around too long. I know how quick time goes and how destructive these people are. And it's their choice. You can come alongside them, care for them, love them, feed them, shower them, fuck them, all the rest of it. They don't get it. Their substances and their attitudes and shadows and darkness is way more important than really getting somewhere in life. And they'll be gone like the wind. They'll be gone like a puff of smoke. That's just how life is. You have to focus on yourself. Focus on your mental health. Stay straight, stay strong, stay aware, be wise, be caring. But do not enable or assist or be an ally to self-destructive people. Do not. The devil's doing a good enough job of that. These people are the victims of their own demise. They will try and blame you if you come alongside them. Let them go. They'll thank you for it later. Believe me, they all come back to me. I always end up as somebody that they can trust because I was honest. I'm brutally, horribly honest. But at the end of the day, they know I'm right. And it helps them to realize that there is a dangerous part of life that's not to be played with, or life will be robbed right out from in front of you. This is Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Stay strong, stay well, value your mind. Bye for now.